Part 50. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 492. 492 Help Jingquan. Everyone has a fear of death, and the fear of war is spreading. This exposed Jinquan's sword mound in front of Xianxia, who also knew that this was the person he was going to kill. He held up his black fork and shot it with a sharp fork. Snapped. This time smashed the 5 outer swords of the sword mound, and the sword left the subject and immediately disappeared after landing. There is a door. Xianxia was overjoyed and shouted, "Smash, smash hard. Never let the old sword stick live." Suddenly countless magic instruments, magic weapons, ping-pong and ping-pong hit the sword mound. The sword mound has a good defense, but it can't stand such an attack. The sword mound is just a small array of spells, but it is not a large array of gates. Can't afford to smash like this. I saw the silver sword, knocked down, disappeared, and the thickness of the sword mound became thinner. Jingquan is dead, this battle will be defeated. Chong, fight, another old ancestor of Jidan roared, and rushed with more than 100 monks. But there is no suspense. After a short time, I saw a Jindanhu as a streamer, far away towards the Elixir Mountain. No one dared to go up this time, all of them were in a hurry, but there was only death, and only hope that the ancestors of Jingquan could get through as soon as possible. Yekongli was also anxious, but he couldn't help it. There were 10 Jidan ancestors and 200 base-building monks. Is he going to die? No. I have to think of a way. If I can't, I have to go back to the city and run away with Liu Ying first. Yekong was ready for both hands. But then, the opportunity came. The sword mound had been smashed by them and a gap had been leaked. You can clearly see that Jingquan's ancestor was still meditating with his eyes closed. Suddenly a monk with a dead corpse shouted, "Swing while shaking. Don't let this old guy feel at ease." Xianxia also felt good, yelling, "Get out." Then Xianxia also whistled, throwing the black fork, just like playing golf, pulling the sword mound far away. The direction is exactly Yekong. Have it, Yekong flashed in his mind. Jingquan ancestors, I have lost my blood. I hope I can help you through this level. If this doesn't work, then the buddies will only escape. Yekong said, patted the storage bag, took out a dark thing and threw it out. Meanwhile, he spit out a word, "Big." I saw a large tortoise shell the size of a house, and the entrance of the tortoise shell was facing the rolled sword mound. When the sword mound entered the turtle shell, Yekong threw a golden light amulet again, and a golden tortoise shell was blocked in front of the monk Yinzong. All this was too sudden. All the monks present were stunned. No one paid attention to this black-headed and black-faced fellow monk. Now everyone has seen it. It didn't feel good to be stared at by 16 ancestors of Jidan. Yekong felt numb in his back when he was suspended in the air, and there were as many as 18 silver corpses that were equivalent to monk Jidan, and there was a Yasha golden corpse. My mother, don't flash fast, Yekong reminded himself, and drove away with his take-off sword. Kill me. Xianxia's ancestors were so angry that he thought he would definitely solve this old enemy today. He was also happy. The other ancestors of the dead Yin sect were also angry. NND, it was going to kill Jingquan. Who knows that a 3-story building was built? This guy is so awful. I just took off my pants and felt no place to pee. No, my ancestor, I must pee. So they didn't care what the scope was, they all drove up the magic weapon to catch up. The team was so immense that Yekong was flying in front of him, and there were 10 ancestors of Jidan behind, and he could eat him one by one. Behind them are more than 200 people who are based in Zuji. They are all going to catch this kid and make it into a bronze corpse. Immediately after that, there were 1,000 monks of gas refining, all holding their weaponry, to chop someone into meat. There are all kinds of zombies behind, more than 10,000. Someone now knows the big one, and said in pain, "Our ancestors are stubborn, you are too skinny, you do nt bring them like this, it's too bullying, and you. Xiao Wind Wolf King, your mother runs faster than Lao Tzu." Yakong's speed was as fast as his ancestor Ji Dan, and he was captive soon. Fortunately, he had a lot of spells, throwing out a large number of spells, and a firebird, ice pin, lightning, and gold cone hit the chase with a slap. But after throwing it a few times, the effect was not obvious. Those ancestors of Dandan were not afraid of these low-level spells and directly resisted the past. Seeing it was approaching again, someone bit it and grabbed a handful of spirit stones. "NND, I can also kill you with spirit stones. I am rich. I am an upstart. I am a rich second generation. Not to mention, this trick really works." Those base building refining gas stopped to pick up the spiritual stones, and even the old ancestors of Dan were not idle, but in the end they were the old ancestors of Dan. They only picked the middle-class spiritual stones, and carried forward the style of wealthy people. NovelMTL.com. But there are also two ancestors who belong to the high state who are not obsessed with money. One man and one woman, the men are thin and lean, but the women are tall and rich. The two are still chasing like crazy. "Brother, I haven't raped your wife? Why bother with each other?" Yekong fiercely poured a spirit wine and continued to run. The man didn't say anything, but the woman giggled, "I'm his wife, you haven't raped me, and I know best. That way, eldest sister, Baiyin, husband and wife for one night, you let me go." "Oh, how could Xiaoqing Glang let it go easily? My sister waited for you to make me feel good," the woman said with two waves. "What a hum." Yekong Kong cursed and said, "Unfortunately I don't like women who deal with corpses all day. I'm afraid of having nightmares." The female Xiu laughed, "Rest assured, you will never dream about being a zombie." Yekong heard the bones stunned and angrily, "Let's talk when you have the ability to catch up to me." The Nidan woman repaired, "Do you think you are running fast? If it wasn't for my apprentice's voice, let me not kill you, and take you alive to corpse her, otherwise you can survive." "Your apprentice?" Yekong froze, thinking of someone in his heart. "Sure enough," the female ancestor said, "the one you put back. Is it Wang Tingxi?" But Yekong didn't expect that. "She wants to kill me? Yeah, so let's catch it?" Yekong suddenly understood that Wang Tingxi wanted to protect him. However, Yekong sighed. Different road non-phase plan. A person who indiscriminately kills mortals and zombies can't make friends with himself. How many people would have to die to keep such a person alive? Ye idled around for a while, and in the end, there was no way to shake it off. The spirit stones were almost thrown away. He had only one way to get into the turtle shell. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Jian Yi. Chapter 493. 493 Guardian Ancient Tree. "Okay, Ancestor Jingquan, we can't escape." Yekong sighed and sat across the gap between the sword and mound. Yekong drilled into the turtle shell, and all the attacks came at the turtle shell. The golden corpse savagely slammed the top of the shell with that big fork. Other monks also attacked with instruments, and even more unethical, punched with sharp cone instruments, and saw with serrated instruments. Although Yekong was inside, he had a hole in his eyes, and sighed in his heart. After this battle, the tortoise shell instrument was finished. This attack here, in the sky above, among the 5 Jadan ancestors of the dead Yin sect, one of them suddenly said, "Brother Zhongkun, is that enough? It is estimated that Uncle Skyfall over there is impatient." Zhongkun sighed, "Nearly, they don't fight again, it's really anxious." Another old ancestor of Jadan also said, "Let them ignore Jingquan's guy, kill the monk first, or go to the mortals in the city to kill. Hurry up, wait for those old monsters in Qingming Valley and Lingyaoshan. Come out, we can't get out of one." Okay, although Zhongkun wanted to kill Jingquan, his foe, it was a big deal. So many corpse monks killed the dazed Elixir Mountain and monk King Mingwu, and they can't blame the monks for being dazed. The golden corpse is too fierce, which is equivalent to the UN infant period. Seeing that the golden corpse came again, the monks fought and retreated, and finally fled to the Wanjiachan large formation, and several Jadan ancestors held their positions. The big array gap was too late to be repaired. The corpse explosion just blown up all the array eyes, then it is not repaired, it needs to be repositioned, and it won't work for a while. A few ancestors of Dandan talked about it. Let's defend it. It can be dragged for a while. So Monk King Mingwu took out some seeds and planted them evenly in the gap of the large array. Then, all 5 ancestors of Dandan began to recite the secret. I saw those seeds germinate quickly, and the outermost plants are shrubs. These were previously seen by Yekong in the 5 elements array under King Mingwu. They have blades with blades similar to the blade, and pop flowers that will burst into flames. The inner seedlings grow bigger and bigger, and grow higher and higher, soaring into the sky, opening branches and leaves, and finally growing into a dozen giant trees to block the large array of cracks. The big tree was 10 feet tall, a bit like a willow, with numerous branches hanging from the top, but the branches were not like a willow, but like a whip. Seeing these giant trees blocking the rift, the mortals and monks in the city were relieved, but only one person was worried. No, so, Brother Heza can't come in, Lu Ying anxiously, she rushed forward. However, she was a monk in the middle of gas refining, and she spoke lightly, let alone talk to the ancestors of Jadan. It was difficult to squeeze into the crowd to see those ancestors of Jadan. Master, talk about it. Lu Ying, who had no choice, had to find Wan Xian. I just have to talk about it. Wan Xian's real man was not sure. After all, he also felt that such a big tree was there, and it was safer for the people in the city. But the apprentice's request can't be ignored. I can't watch the old ancestor Jingquan and the apprentice's future husband outside. The ancestor of Jingquan was not there, and a large number of real people in Wanjia were hanged in the corpse explosion. Wangsuan real people are now the main task of Wanjiachan, so he still easily saw the leading Qingming ancestors. No, why are you so confused? This is the only way to stop the golden corpse, and to be honest, how long these guardian ancient trees can resist, we do not know. The old ancestors sighed, although they told the monks they are godlike beings, but they are almost the same as the young monks in the face of the infancy monks. I hope that before guarding the ancient tree is destroyed, there will be an ancestor of Yuanying to help. The old ancestor Jadan sighed. In the sky over there, the corpse Yinzong and others also noticed something strange. Zhongkun scolded, the Qingming actually sprinkled out the seeds that guard the ancient trees. Another ancestor laughed, thanks to your silver corpse's evolutionary breakthrough at a critical moment, otherwise we will really fail this time. Zhongkun nodded and said, I can't think of Jingquan's dead sword stick, but we have to realize that, we still have to speed up. Let everyone attack. If you can't break Wanjia city and get enough blood, you can only, people. After Zhongkun's ancestors said, several other ancestors who nodded their heads nodded and looked at the disciples who were fighting bravely below, exposing a fierce light like looking at a lamb. For these plants, the blade grass bursting flower, it is still a little harmful to the little monk and stone stiff. When a group of young monks of the dead corpse came fast, the blades of grass shot sharp blades like blades, and several young monks were immediately hit. However, they also have a way to deal with it. I saw a large group of young monks carrying coffins throwing the coffin collectively. Although the coffin is a bit indecent, the group throws it, but it is still a bit imposing. Then a few iron corpses came out. The iron corpses were zombies made by monks during the gas gathering period, and their power was also fan. Without destroying a few blades of grass, they were blown down by burst flowers. The owners of those iron corpses control the explosion of the iron corpses. Suddenly, countless air masses burst, and the power of the iron corpse explosion was greater than that of the stone stiff. After the corpse exploded, all the sharp blades of grass were smashed, and the pieces were filled with black corpse. The burst flowers followed the corpse explosion, which also produced a chain explosion. After a while, the first line of defense was breached. Kill! Kill them to go home. The monks swooped up again, and the fighting was not fierce. The monks of the dead body knew that this was the only way they could go home. In the Hongduan Mountains, there are the ancestors of the Yuanying ancestors with Qingming Valley and Linjiao Mountain, and the Yuanfu ancestors of the Yunfu and alchemist ancestors on the Wuan River. Corpse Yanzong, this is the only way. Kill it. Kill you, I live. Kill you, I have a way to live. Under the of this thought, the monk of the corpse Yanzong killed the past frantically. But to their surprise, the old ancestors of King Minggu are all old guys who have lived for hundreds of years. They are all savvy. I expected them to have this trick, so they are under the blade of grass and bursting flowers. Even planted a lot of soil spurs. A soil thorn is also a plant that grows under the ground without any stems. In other words, standing on the ground cannot be seen at all. When the monks just rushed up, hoeing the ground, numerous spurs suddenly pierced through the ground like javelins. Blood once again stained the whole land. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 494. Epiphany is in danger. It's good, Zhongkun laughed, it's almost 300 deaths. Another Jadan ancestor also laughed, I'm happy no matter who died, haha. Although they said this, they still hoped that they would be enemies as dead as possible. Although these disciples were not high, they would still be used in the future. The nightmare of Shi Yanzong's disciples soon ended, because the golden corpse had arrived. The golden corpse moves slowly, and it is all controlled by Zhongkun, flying in the sky, which is very spiritually consuming, so the golden corpse finally ran on a big step. For the golden corpse with the strength of the UN infant, those blade grass burst flowers and soil thorns are not worth mentioning at all. As soon as it strode out, it smashed all the blades of grass, slammed a punch, slammed the ground for a while, the ground cracked, and the spurs underneath died. However, Jinzhe's enemies moved, those who guarded the ancient trees. According to legend, these guardian ancient trees are the seeds brought by the old ancestors of Qingming Valley from the immortal realm. They are very powerful and are generally used to build the guardian formation. However, these guardian ancient trees also have different ages. If the ancient trees are thousands of years old, even the monks who converted the gods to refining the virtual period can't be broken. Today, the guardian of the ancient tree is awful. This is the seed that was sown. The power can be imagined. But even so, it dragged the golden corpse for a while. I saw that the large branches of hanging branches guarding the ancient trees all moved, as alive as the spirit snake. Some branches entangled Jinjin's legs and feet, some strangled his neck, and there was a sudden twitch against Jinjin's face. But these are useless, except for the crooked mouth that was pulled, and the teeth of the golden corpse were harmless, and then it raised his head and roared, struggling to shake, all the branches shattered. The golden corpse was so powerful that it waved the black fork in its hands in anger. After a while, a guardian ancient tree collapsed. Not good. I'm afraid it won't last long. In the big battle, Jidan's ancestors were confused. They were in chaos, and those little monks were in chaos. They had hoped to escape, but now the defensive battles have turned into cages that trap them. Hurry up and let us all go out, disciples of Ling Yaoshan and Qingminggu shouted. No. This is the guardian array that protects our Wanjia city. How can we open it without the orders of our ancestors? Those disciples of Wanjia who kept their eyes right were right. Go to your mother. There is such a big gap in the big team over there. Open your mouth and let us go. What's wrong? Hurry up. Otherwise we will fight with you. You timids. Before the dead yin sect comes, you want to run away, Wanjia disciples grinned. The disciples who came to help and the disciples of King Minggu immediately became angry. You bastards, how many brothers have we died to protect you, do you still say that we are cowards? Believe me or not, I draw your face. There was chaos in Wanjia city, the old ancestors of Jadan forced to calm down, the real people in the building base were panicked, the monks of gas refining were terrified, and all people had to cry and pray. There are powerful enemies outside the city, and there are noisy people in the city. The situation is about to get out of hand. But at this moment, the ancestor of Jingquan finally came out. Ah! Jingquan ancestors, you are awake, otherwise I really have to fight with them. If Yakong is desperately working with the dead yin sect, then there is only one last move. Aura runes, presumably, the power of aura runes drawn with high-quality rune paper is not ordinary, right? Of course, the ancestor of Jingquan didn't know that he had such a bad thing, and laughed, what's the use of fighting with them? Isn't that to die? Yakong didn't explain, scratched his head and said, if you can fight a few, fight a few. If you kill one, you will earn one. The ancestor of Jingquan smiled, your personality is quite suitable for sword repair. How are you? Are you interested? Xianxia is very powerful and can also be a Danhua baby. I have learned that the sword is one. Today is one after the war, I am going to retreat to shock the infant's infanthood. Otherwise, you'll stay with me. I am the retreat. You re the master of the city. You can enjoy the income and beauty in the city. Old man, you should go and save people, don't be busy digging the corner. Yakong smiled bitterly. Besides, I already have the proper basic exercises, I don't want to change anymore. Although the sword repair power is great, but not suitable for me, and your sword tactics are like sheep feces, they are all cut off, I have no intention to ask you slowly. Haha, compare my sword-cutting sword to sheep shit, you really say it? Jingquan laughed, stood up, and said, well, today you saved my life, I have nothing to thank, here I have the revised cut-off sword recipe. This modified version does not require you to give up the original exercises, but only focuses on the use of flying swords or magic weapons. Although it is not as good as the real sword repair can also let ordinary monks control the power of flying swords, this is what I was going to modify for our disciples. Since you saved my life, I will give you the first participation. Jingquan's ancestors finished speaking, took a green jade card from the storage bracelet and threw it over. Yakong whispered and murmured, it's not for me to experiment, and it's so nice, it's better to give me a storage bracelet. Jingquan's face reprimanded, stupid. With sword tactics, you can grab tens of millions of storage bracelets, but there are empty storage bracelets. The last thing to do is to be killed and robbed treasures. This is not clear. Take a longer look. Okay, I know, my ancestors will hurry to save your Wanjia disciples and my wife. Jingquan's ancestors flung their sleeves and went out. As soon as Jingquan's ancestors went out, someone in Wanjia city shouted, the ancestors are out. The city was quiet for a while. Those who were panicked, noisy, and running around were all quiet, and countless eyes shot at the ancestor Jingquan who came out of the turtle shell. Old sword stick, did you realize it? Why didn't you retreat for 10 or 8 years by the way, and break through Yuan Ying again? Zhong Kun's sarcastic voice sounded. Relax, soon, Jingquan's ancestors urged Fi Yun's shoes under his feet and floated into the sky. The corpse of the dead Yin sect all went to attack. There were not many defenders on the side of Zhong Kun. He was afraid that Jingquan would come to break his own team first. So he sneered, unfortunately, even if you realize it, you still have 9 layers of dandan. Even if the great consummation has not yet arrived, you want to defeat my golden corpse, you're still a little behind. Jing Quan's ancestors were angry. Then try it. Zhong Kun's heart was loose, in the end it was a sword madman, his brain was not so easy to use, so foolish, you can fight with the golden corpse, our formation is just, oh, but my golden corpse is a pity. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 495. 495 Swords in One. In fact, the old guy who has passed the age of several hundred years can't count. Jing Quan knows Zhong Kun's guilty conscience, for fear he will leave the golden corpse to break the battle first. However, as soon as Jing learned a new level of swordsmanship, he wanted to find a battle of comparable strength, so he would count on killing the golden corpse. When I kill Jin Shi, I will kill you and wait, wash my neck and wait. Jing Quan's ancestor flew to Jin Jin. Here, Zhong Kun's ancestor also gave an order to let Jin Zhe deal with Jing Quan, and at the same time let all monks of the dead Yin sect retreat. Tonight, Yuelang is sparse and breezy. Outside the city of Wanjia, corpses were everywhere, with corpses and blood everywhere. Jing Quan's ancestors and Jin Zhe stood face to face, and a battle was about to begin. The golden corpse held a black fork in his hands and looked scornfully at the defeated man. It did not believe how powerful the guy who had been knocked to the ground by him several times would be. Jinkin's ancestor hanging in mid-air stared at the golden corpse deadly. In his eyes, the war intention was soaring and the momentum was condensing. At this moment, he only has opponents in his eyes. It is a tradition of sword repair to test swords with opponents. Only the blood of your opponent can excite the sword in your hand. War will soar. Okay. At this moment it's over. The ancestors of Jing Quan flashed in the eyes, and the sword in his hand gave off a dazzling brilliance. At that moment, it seemed as if a round of hot sun appeared on the flat ground. Strong and silent, vast and invisible, never seeing a force but not a force all the time. The power of the earth. The earth, the sword, the union one. In the deep chants of Jinkin's ancestors, I saw that his figure slowly dimmed, and finally became a faint shadow, while the large ground under his feet was shaking and rolling, as if there were monsters under the thin layer. Waking up. The figure of the ancestor of Jing Quan is still there, but when people look at it, they feel as if they are not seeing a person, but a mountain and a river with a magnificent momentum. At this moment, he is a mountain, Ren Tian moves him without moving, Ren Biun Kang Dog does not move his emotions, he is a river, lying on the ground quietly, and no ship can shuttle in his body. He got up, he was a tree on the ground, and there were teenagers trampling and felling, and he didn't say a word. His power is ubiquitous but silent, his power is soft and patient, yet thick and thick, this is the power of the earth, and he has been integrated with the earth into one. The earth is trembling, the ground is undulating, like a tide, wave after wave, with endless power. Even the golden corpse, which has always been despised, was nervous and scared. His blood-red eyes looked at Jing Quan's imaginary shadow. He neither dared to rush up nor back, he clenched the black fork, his eyes in shock. Finally, Jing Quan has a sword. I Ma Ping Chuan, I am the peak. This style is the first style of the combination of earth and sword. The ancestors of Jing Quan disappeared in an instant, and even the ghost image disappeared. The shaking and distortion of the ground stopped, but no one would relax because of this. The brief calm was like a prelude to a storm. Suddenly, a sword rang through the world, oh! The sound is so crisp and intriguing. I saw a white transparent sword light suddenly under the ground at the foot of Jinjet. This sword is so huge that it looks like a mountain that suddenly rises from the ground. Boom! Xianxia was really powerful. With this sword alone, the golden corpse of the annihilation was blown up. The ancestor Jianwei will cut off the evildoers. The passion in Wanjia city was so angry that countless mortals worshipped him. The old ancestors of Dandan also rejoiced in their hearts, and laughed. Jingquan can go up another level after this epiphany. I'm afraid it's not far from Jindanhu a baby. Yeah, the ancestors of Jadan looked at Jingquan and were jealous in addition to envy. Think about Yuanying's 400-year longevity in the future. That's how much people yearn for. It seems that this time, we have to go back to retreat after being stimulated by Jinkin's babies. Other ancestors of Dandan also had the urge to retreat. Then notify all disciples, and cut off the demons as soon as possible. As soon as the ancestors of Jadan ordered, the disciples rushed out of the Wanjia array like crazy and rushed to the corpse Yin disciples. Without the golden corpse, the corpse Yinzong disciples lost their reliance, and all retracted to stubbornly resist in the formation at the feet of their ancestors. This time, Ping Pong Pong started to fight again and again, and he was red-eyed, and his disciples rushed into the crowd like crazy, playing self-exploding. The scene was horrible. Yekong didn't fight because he saw someone. Lu Zhen of Qingming Valley. It was him at the beginning, chasing thousands of miles, and forced himself into despair. If not, he would be able to rush back to the southern capital. Maybe he could resolve the Ye family crisis. Also, that brother Zheji who would rather die than betray his own, how can he not report it? Lu Zhen is the old ancestor of Hidden Dan, so Yekong didn't see it before, but now that the ambush mission has been completed, Lu Zhen rushes out to kill the enemy, just being seen by Yekong. Yekong retracted the turtle shell magic weapon, turned around, quickly affixed a hidden charm to himself, and then sneaked into the battlefield. Yekong has tried many times, and this hidden magic charm is very effective for Yuanying. Except for Yuanying's ancestors, others cannot see him without the secret method. Thousands of people battled on the field, but no one noticed him. Soon, he sneaked into Lu Zhen's back. That Lu Zhen was fighting with a zombie ancestor of the corpse Yin Zone, and there was also a silver corpse. Lu Zhen was defeated by one enemy and two. However, Lu Zhen did not escape, but gritted his teeth and used his sword to defend himself against the enemy. Presumably give it to him at this time, he must die without burial place. Yekong thought about it and took out the fire and water gourd. Here was the silver corpse fire that was absorbed in the mine last time. It is best to burn him with the corpse fire. God is unaware of the ghosts. Even if others see it, they think it was the corpse Yin sect. Hey, Lu Zhen, you do nt know how to die? But Yekong was about to start, but he was suddenly alert. Is it interesting to get revenge like this? Is it the way you want revenge? No. Not to mention that Lu Zhen is trying his best to resist the enemy at this moment, just to say that this method of revenge is boring. No one knows that Lu Zhen killed himself. Lu Zhen himself doesn't know. How powerful is this revenge? What Yekong wanted was the kind of revenge that killed Andu, then it was vigorous and upright. Okay. Lu Zhen, let you live for a while. You wait, my Yekong Hall defeats you squarely and chops you under the sword. Some hate is not allowed to be forgotten. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Jian. Chapter 496. The 496th Movement. How could Lu Zhen know that he had walked around the gate of the Ghost Gate, and his ambassador Yulong's sword supported the offensive of the two in the opposite direction? The monk Yinzongdan was a black bead with a steady stream of corpse gas. The silver corpse then covered up with corpse gas and launched another attack on Lu Zhen. Just when Lu Zhen was unable to support a single tree, suddenly, in the sky, the five ancestors of the Yinzong Jadan who sat cross-legged at an angle of 5 elements, laughed at the same time. Ha ha, enough, finally enough. In the laughter, those corpse Yinzong disciples also exulted, which made the three monks and Yekong to calm their minds. Not good. Is there any conspiracy? Just then, suddenly a huge circle appeared above the heads of the five ancestors in the sky. It is as if there is an inverted mirror in the sky. The mirror is huge, covering a circle of 500 meters, the surface is smooth, and the interior has a bright red gloss. As soon as this bright red mirror appeared, on the ground, the blood of those who were dead was attracted by an invisible force. Blood was also being drawn from the bodies of those who died, and wounds of those injured monks were quickly cracked, and blood spewed. All the blood was sucked into the sky and sucked into the huge blood-red mirror. At this moment, the sky was full of blood, as if it was a blood rain. It's just that the rain is from bottom to top. Xianxia's voice sounded, the 3,000 monks' essential blood needed for the ultra-distance positioning and large shift array method has been drawn, and the monk Yin sect has quickly returned to the big array. Disciples of Ling Yaoshan and King Minggu, thank you for sending we go home. You have 3 breaths to escape, otherwise, the one who waits for you is the corpse Yinzong Yuanying, the fallen ancestor. The monks at Linjiao Mountain and Qingming Valley turned their heads and ran away. After Yekong landed and lifted up, the kid had a fairy bird, and flew out in a blink of an eye. Yekong also fully understood at this moment that the dangerous corpse Yinzong did not really want to attack Wanjia city. They just wanted to attract a large number of monks to fight in order to get enough monk blood. No wonder they posted the battle post in advance, it was because they were worried that there were not enough monks in Wanjia, so that Wanjia would have time to inform Lin Jiashan and King Mengwu. It seems that these ancestors who have lived for hundreds of years are more cunning than others and have a good brain. As for the long-range positioning and moving array, you know from the name that it is a large-scale teleportation array. This Corpsian sect has researched in space and teleportation array methods. It is expected that such a large teleportation array will be created. But where exactly is this formation method and exactly where is it transmitted? Can it really be transmitted to the dead Yin sect hundreds of thousands of miles away? Yekong expressed doubts about this. Angguo is in the southernmost part of the Kangnan continent, and the dead Yin sect is at the northernmost end of the Kangnan continent. The distance between them is nearly 1,000,000 miles. Can this teleportation array be reached? Yekong didn't believe it. But he couldn't believe it, he would see it soon. In one breath, just a few blinks, the escape time of 3 breaths is fleeting. Although Yekong wasn't as fast as Lu Zhen fled, the time of his 3 breaths was enough for him to leave the area covered by the blood-red mirror. What's bad is that people like Zhongkun can't believe it. The reason why he said well is to remind those ancestors to escape. And those monks who built foundations and refining gas did not want to let go. Of course, there was a reason why he let Dan ancestors run away, and he was not kind. The reason is that Jadan's ancestors are more difficult to capture. Even if they are killed, Jin Dan will flee. If they are brought there, if they release a Jadan ancestor, their secret transmission point will be exposed. And the base building and gas refining monks do not have to worry about, these people can catch the refining zombies, if there is resistance, it does not matter if they kill, it will not reveal the secret. Therefore, after several Jadan ancestors came out, Zhongkun immediately launched a long-range positioning movement. Buzz, the sound is not high, but the frequency is high, shaking everyone's brain as if it is also resonating, eyes blooming, lips tingling. Not good. The big array is starting, Yekong immediately felt bad, and he tried to get rid of the tremor of the magic sound, and wanted to run away quickly. But it's late. The blood-red circular mirror in the sky suddenly emits continuous blood, forming a red transparent barrier at the edge of the range, like a cake box, covering all the monks inside. Bang! Bang! Countless Ling Yaoshan and monk Qingminggu were caught off guard and slammed into the transparent red barrier. Inside the barrier, there are monks, outside the barrier, there are monks. One step away, it is just a stone's throw away from life and death. Suddenly all the monks smashed the barrier like crazy. The monks outside shouted and smashed the tools, trying to smash a hole to save their brothers and sisters, sisters. But the transparent red glass is like a barrier, but it is far less fragile than the glass. No matter how you smash it, there is no response at all. Similarly, Yekong didn't want to do this free airplane at all. He also wanted to go out, but he didn't hit the wall. He knew it didn't work. He was still calm, and he quickly took out a soil symbol and tried to get out. But this long-distance positioning movement array has been started, the space inside the array and the space outside the array have been isolated, the circle within the array of hundreds of meters has become self-contained. So his earthen figure only allowed him to teleport from the cake box to the cake box. Coincidentally, the position just saw the transparent glass outside, and the little girl Xiu Luiying was slamming the barrier with tears. Huh. The long-distance positioning shift array finally started. I saw everyone in the array and all objects turned into array of red light absorbed into the blood-red mirror in the sky. Countless red lights suddenly rose unevenly, disappeared into the mirror. When all the objects in the array disappeared, the red glass-like barrier suddenly collapsed, and finally the blood-red mirror quickly shrank, and finally disappeared into the sky out of thin air. The moonlight was still bright and the breeze was still blowing. But a large group of people just disappeared. The ground was quiet and quiet, within a few hundred meters of the circle, there was not even one ant left, all disappeared. I don't know where they went, I don't know what their fate is waiting for them. Among the crowd, Luiying was so disoriented that Yekong was playing a hidden charm. She did not see it, but Luiying felt that he was also in the battle. And now she doubted her judgment again. No, he must not go in. Hey brother! Li Hizi, a thin figure ran through the crowd, shouting. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 497. Patriarch of the Fall. During the large teleportation, Yekong only felt a flower in front of him, as if he was sucked into the sky, dizzy and confused. But it felt like only a short while, when he opened his eyes again. He found that he was standing still, and nothing had changed around him. The land is still that land, the blood-red round mirror is still hanging above the sky, and there are still a few monks standing back and forth. The only difference is that the red transparent glass-like barrier is not the face of Luiying and others. It was a vast, endless black void, as if on a spacecraft, he was on an interstellar voyage. All the monks, not only the Elixir Mountain and the Qingming Valley, but also the monks of the Corpse Yinzong were surprised to look at everything outside. For them, this is the first time in this life that they have such an out-of-planet experience. Some people want to talk, some people want to move. But no, the space seems to be still. No one can move or make a sound, not even the 5 ancestors who started the formation. That's it, I don't know how long it has passed. Finally, there was another dazzling feeling. Yekong felt as if he was turning over and fell into the abyss. He knew that this was the landing, but the landing was not very comfortable. When he opened his eyes again, he found that the red light and the red mirror had all disappeared. Many monks around him couldn't bear the feeling of falling overload, and many people were vomiting. In the distance, there is a small circle of hills, and a gust of wind blows. The wind has a mild salty taste, and it feels as if it has come to the sea. Coming to the seaside should be comfortable, but the monks at the Lingyaoshan and Qingminggu couldn't relax. A sharp, piercing voice sounded, "Welcome back, my disciples of the dead Yin sect, you have worked hard, all the disciples have rewards, each one of the gas-refining disciples gathers 1 Yin pill and builds it. The disciples G each have 2 plus 500 spirit stones, and the ancestors of Jadan give another reward, all the disciples who are dead, but the disciples who are still in the soul, will be given a stove of excellent spiritual roots regardless of their cultivation level. This dead Yin sect is very affordable. When they meet, they do not say anything. Let us talk about rewards." The Yin sect disciples turned out to be pleasantly surprised. They knelt down and shouted in unison, "Old ancestors, disciples will never die. Yekong looked up at the speaker and saw a few raised hills on the surrounding hills. There were jade formations on the tops, and two people stood on the highest formations. In front of it is a large robe with large sleeves and a tall figure, who also has a high crown on his head, who is the speaker. This man is white-faced, with thick eyebrows and long eyes, and is a very handsome and middle-aged man. I am afraid this person is the ancestral ancestor, Xianxia said. After falling to the sky, another man also stood with his hands. This man Yekong has seen is Zhou Wei, the ancestor of the corpse Yinzong who attended the Yunfuzong Bay ceremony. Okay, two ancestors. Yekong only smiled bitterly. This time, it was really impossible to steal the chicken. Who wanted to sneak in Lu Zhen, who knew that Lu Zhen had been let go, but he came here to face the two ancestors of the babies. It was really bad luck. Your ancestor Ban Ban. Had it not been for Lu Zhen, he wouldn't have gone deep into the corpse yin zone, nor would he have come here. Lu Zhen, you have hurt me again. Not only Yekong, but the disciples of Ling Yaoshan and Qing Minggu knew that waiting was definitely not a good thing, and they glanced at each other. After that, dozens of monks suddenly exploded and fled. But how powerful is the Yuanying period for those who build foundations and refiners? This top creature on this world pyramid. The fallen ancestor seemed to turn a blind eye, while talking in his mouth, and waving his sleeves at the same time. He saw the flying monks, all fixed, and after a few seconds, even the people with the magical instruments slammed from the air. Yekong didn't move, he knew it was too difficult to escape in front of Liang Yuanying. Can't escape, you have to think. The soil water leeches are naturally useless. A single rune can travel for more than 10 miles. The ancestor of the infant can cover 50 to 100 miles. Even if you use 10 runes, you may not be able to escape the scope of his consciousness. But at that moment, the fallen ancestor suddenly heard the words, and snorted with a look. Obviously, he found Yekong. Although Yekong was wearing a hidden charm, this thing had no effect on Yuanying's ancestors. The fallen ancestor and the Yuanying's ancestor named Zhou Wei both looked at him at the same time. Yekong whispered secretly, but the more nervous he was, the faster he died. It was better to be calm. Meet the ancestor Zhou Wei, the only disciple of Yunfuzong Koguang's ancestor, and this family has no semicolon. Li Hizi is polite. Yekong quickly tore off the hidden magic charm on his face and stunned to the end. Fall into the sky. Originally, he thought that the boy was a disciple of Ling Yaoshan or Qing Minggu, who knew that Yunfuzong was from Yunfuzong, but also knew Zhou Wei. His expression was so calm, and his ancestors were suspicious. Looking back, brother Zhou Wei, do you know this? Zhou Wei is also a mysterious nodded and said, yes, I know. Maybe he thought that a 3-layer building base could not play well, so he said, Li Hizi, I am indeed in Yunfuzong, has seen you compete. Why did you come here today? Yekong busily said, Elder Zhou Wei, Yunfuzong was extremely unfair to his disciples in the inner hall, and Cao Junfan, Cao Guang's grandson, looked at me with jealousy, so the junior had already fallen out with Yunfuzong and wanted to vote for another faction. When Yunfuzong Navy watched, Zhou Wei's ancestors were extraordinary and heroic, so they wanted to worship under your door. When Zhongkun saw the man there, he was furious and shouted, Uncle, don't listen to this blackbird nonsense. This man is so scheming. In Wanjia City, if this man didn't insert a bar halfway, Jing, all that old boy will die. Yekong knows that he can't cheat, and he doesn't want to fool these Yuanying Jidan. He ignored Zhongkun and said to himself, when the junior escaped from Yunfuzong, he took a Yunfuzong Townzong Bao amulet in hand, and he devoted himself to the ancestors in a single yuan. Hunyuan Yuki Kingfu, Zhou Wei's eyes were straight. Even the fallen ancestors showed greed. Although they did not hear the name of the amulet, it sounded like a bull X, but it was still a treasure of Zhenzong. In an instant, Zhou Wei's mind turned. This boy must be a fake teacher. Now he has been arrested and wants to buy something for his life. Hey, you can leave everything and your life. Yekong certainly knew what they were thinking about. He took a red charm from the storage bag and held up his hands and said, "This is the mixed charm of Qingyu and Yuki, please allow the junior to personally dedicate it to you, otherwise it will be bad if you accidentally start it." Zhou Wei and others took a look at the whole red spell, never seen it, good thing. He also heard Yekong's threat. If he snatched it, he would force it? Well, let you live a little longer. Zhou Wei nodded, then you send it? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 498. 498. Yekong quickly threw out the flying sword, and he was waiting for this moment, while deliberately flying up, while probing into the charm. When this spell was activated, Yekong felt his blood and spiritual power running madly, and rushed towards the spell like a river breaks. It was a very scary feeling, as if his whole body drained. Zhou Wei and others were not stupid. He had prevented the kid from playing tricks and saw that he had something strange. Zhou Wei immediately came up with a trick. Baby lock space. This guy is reluctant to kill at this moment. After all, if it is really possible to get Yunfuzong's Zhenzong Baofu, how powerful is it? However, the baby lock space is only a spell that everyone has during the infancy period. It is far worse than the space of large space or the artistic conception space of the monk. It can only serve as a barrier, but it cannot create its own space. So naturally cannot prevent Yekong's charm. When Yekong's spiritual power was drawn for most of the time, the rune finally came into effect, and he saw that a sudden mist of blood sprayed from his eyes, nose, and his figure was blurred, a blood glow rising into the sky, disappeared in the sky. The two old ancestors suddenly realized that, damn. What mixed element is a clear rune, that is a blood rune. Who knows that this kid has such a great weapon to escape? No, I have to catch him and let him know that the ancestor of Yuanying is not fun. Zhou Wei's ancestor was angry, in front of many disciples, was put on the line, and everyone was annoyed. The fallen ancestor shook his head and said, "Forget it, that blood slap can go thousands of miles at a time. You know which direction he shoot, and the sea is vast outside. How can I find it?" Zhou Wei also said, "I heard that the blood pupa is stimulated by the blood energy in his body. After each use, the user will be greatly harmed. At this time, it is difficult for him to find him." Falling Sky still shook his head, "It is not urgent to find him right now, the major events in Zhongli are going fast. We have no time to delay, so let's go back to Zone." Zhou Wei had nodded. Only the old ancestor Zhongkun murmured in his heart, I already said he was so scheming, you just don't listen." Later, the fallen Sky released the flying boat, and everyone and the zombies went up to their gates. Before leaving, he blew up all the formations on the ground, which must be destroyed if they are exposed here. Thousands of miles away, the waves are blue and the sea is boundless, and the laughter is echoing again and again. "Ha, it's really yin and yin, you two Yu and Ying are so mad, you just want my Yekong's life, ha. Yekong laughed and coughed. He was really nervous just now. The two ancestors of Yuanying, the fallen monk was a late monk in the late period. There are more than 20 ancestors of Dandan and hundreds of foundations. What a luxurious lineup. I actually escaped by myself, and I played with the ancestors of Yuanying, which is really cool. It's so cool. Yekong was lying on the sea and slamming down the sea, but this action caused him a cough again. Although he escaped, his current condition was not good. He now understands why Cao Luoxiu told him to use it with caution. This blood maggot was just dying with his life, and the whole body's spiritual power was drawn by 2/3. This is not the main thing. The main thing is that a large amount of blood was drawn by force, which caused his veins to be severely damaged, but his blood was weak. As a result, he could not meditate to replenish spiritual power. The meridians are broken. How do you run spiritual power? How to refine the aura? But it's okay to keep it. As long as I don't die, I can rise again. The dead Yin sect, I will come back for revenge, Yekong resented. He swallowed a few pills, floated on the water, closed his eyes, and waved with the waves. Yekong guessed that this is the sea. In the northern part of the Kangnan continent, there is a huge sea called Kanghai, and after crossing the sea, it is the Xingzhou boundary where the dead Yin sect is located. The long-distance positioning large moving array method does not seem to be teleported to the gate of the dead Yin zone mountain, so it is on a small island in the sea that the receiving array method is set. Yekong thought of this, and quickly recorded a note, and sent it to Yun Fuzong. Thinking of the expression of the little girl Xiu Luiying with tears, Yekong took out another note. All the notes came out, and he lay down on the sea relaxedly, resting quietly for most of the day. When it got late, he took out a few pills. Rulan, thank you very much, Yekong sighed. At the time, when Rulan had obtained such a large bag of elixir, she still felt that she was too exaggerated. Now it seems that it is not exaggerated at all. For the past 4.5 years, he hasn't bought any elixir. Those solid medicines, such as the alchemy that was eaten during the gas refining period and Huanglongdan that was eaten during the base construction period, were the most consumed, and they were already almost consumed. Yang Yuandan, who cultivated Yuan Shen, basically didn't eat it, but most of it was given to Huan Quan's ancestors. Although he lost the house, his original wounded consciousness still needs to be nourished. The most remaining one is De Huan Dan and Bao Ming Dan, who treat physical injuries. The former is used to treat body damage, and the latter is used to treat meridian qi and si. As it happens, these two elixir medicines have their place. Yekong took the elixir and lay quietly on the surface of the sea, with the eternal tidal sound in his ears, his body undulating on the surface like a piece of wood. The days when the meridians are damaged are not good. The whole body is like a scatter, sore and numb. Those who break the meridians are of course painful, and the pain is almost the same as that of tens of thousands of ants in the body. He did not dare to be too anxious. The elixir was dispersed in the body, and he used the power of those elixir with divine consciousness, and slowly reconnected, opened up and rebuilt the meridians. The process was slow, but it worked. After a whole night, 18 fractures on the main meridian finally repaired one. As the night passed, the sun rose to the surface like a big golden yolk. Yekong looked at the dark sky that was being driven away, and exhaled. At this speed, I was afraid that it would take a month to fully recover. He wanted to continue to take the medicine to repair the meridians, but when he took the medicine from the storage bag, he suddenly remembered his harvest in Wanjiachan and decided to sort it out. The most important gain is the barren mountain and river map, which is temporarily unavailable in the storage ring. The second is the modified sword repair method given by Jinkin's ancestors. Yekong took a deep dive and found out that Jinkin's ancestors did not lie to him. There are indeed many experiences that can be used for reference. The power of Fijian magic weapon increased by at least 20%. But unfortunately, the ancestors of Jing Quan himself only realized that the body and sword were united, and there was no content of sword unity behind them. Of course, even if there is, Yekong can't use it. He is the foundation period, and it's good to be able to understand all the swords in one. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Jian Yi. Chapter 499. 499 See Life. Then there was Wang Tingxi's black ropa. Ropa is dark, surrounded by silver threads embroidered with a pattern that looks like a puppy. You can see the girl's mind and like small animals. Yekong thought about her words that day. She said with a sorrowful smile, "Unhappy, I do/nt have little pets and dolls for little girls. I haven't had any friends until now. When I am bored, I only have with the corpse. I can only talk to the corpse, because I was born in the corpse yin zone. Because I am the dark spirit root. Because I have to cultivate only the corpse. Although the road is under her own feet, but if there is only one road in front of you, do you want to go or not? Yekong could not help but sigh. Maybe all this was tragic for Wang Tingshi, but if she still walked on the old road, that is the tragedy of countless innocent people. Yekong sighed, put away Ropa, and after the meridians have penetrated, this Ropa can still be refined for his own use. After all, it is a superb magic weapon, and its power is still very powerful. Although it is a bit scary, if there is nothing pitiful to use against bad people. Finally, Yekong took out the black ball left by the Peeper Zyasin on the wall. At first Yekong didn't understand what this thing was, but after some research, it was found that this is a photo bead, which is similar to the Earth's camera, and can record video. This is a new thing. Yekong smiled and put away the photo beads. Other than that, there is nothing good about it. But what surprised Yekong was that in the storage bag of Duo's real person, he found a white bead that Kaiyuan real person took at the time. Yekong took a closer look and found that this turned out to be a dead corpse. Kaiyuan, you died in your own hands, too. Yekong Quan understood the corpse's shadow. It wasn't the fake from the dead yin zone, but it was dropped by the bald Duo real person. It is no wonder that the real man of Duo only needs the boneless storage bag, and dares that he already has the dead beads of the corpse, so this is pretending to leave. I think those three guys called brothers, and when they saw the treasure, they deceived each other and framed each other. The friendship between the monks in Kangnan mainland is really fragile. Yekong also has a few friends, but he believes that his friends, at this time, will definitely not do so: Zhang Wulin, Ye Xian, Lan Ming, and Cao Junfan. Yekong believes that they will not do this. In fact, friends affect each other. If Yekong is not this hardy and sincere character, how can other people be sincere to him? Yekong is like a seed, and he can bring sincere flowers everywhere, affecting everyone around him. After finishing all this, he still did not take the elixir. Because after the relaxation of his mind, he had a new idea. He thought of the Lingui refining method he had snatched from Zhang Jud. The purpose of the Ningui refining body is to constantly injure and recover, to improve the toughness and anti-strike ability of each part of the body. Injures and heals skin and muscles, making the skin as hard as iron. Break bones, regenerate, and make them strong and powerful. Damage and rebirth of the meridians is the strengthening and resilience of the meridians. Why don't you take advantage of the meridian injury and come to a spiritual training? With this idea in mind, Yekong no longer consumes elixir, but instead regenerates the body to regenerate the meridians. There were two problems. First, the rebirth of the meridian does not follow the original position, and sometimes it grows disorderly and chaotically. This requires Yekong to carefully guide the direction of the meridian with the spiritual power that he can call. If it is connected with the original meridian, he needs to get through with spiritual power. The passing process was a bit painful, but Yekong endured it with persistence. The second problem is that the growth of meridians is much slower without the aid of elixir. It was once a month to recover, but now it takes at least 3 months. However, Yekong thought of the benefits of refining, so he decided not to take elixir, and insisted on training his meridians with Lingui refining. The sun rises and falls, the days go by day. In this way, Yekong has been drifting on the sea for a month. During this month, every day, he tempered his meridians according to the method of spiritual training. The benefits were obvious. As the damaged meridians slowly improved, he found that those tempered meridians became broader and smoother, and their ability to absorb Reiki increased. After 10 more days like this, his main meridians have been opened up. The next task is the small meridians. Although the small meridians are small, they are also very important, and they are cumbersome and trivial, so it takes about 1.5 months. Will fully recover for the past 1.5 months, he floated on the sea every day, watching the rising sun and sunset, listening to the tides and ebbs, feeling the tranquility and the power of the sea. For this day, there has also been a lot of increase in the natural understanding of this place. His meridians have become wider, his mind is wider, and he has a deeper understanding of the laws of nature. He suddenly felt that this time the tiger was out of danger and escaped with injuries. It seemed that the results were not as bad as expected. But for a month and a half at the sea, it was also very painful. It's not a question of eating, it's a question of loneliness. He is already a monk in the foundation period and has already established a valley, so he does not have to worry about eating. But what bothers him is loneliness. When does the sea come to an end? His character is not so lonely. He likes to be lively. He likes to have friends, relatives, and jokes, but this sea, except him, has only sea water. He began to miss home, Angguo, Yunfuzong, and even those enemies, whoever could think of it. He wanted to quickly find his way back. It's okay with the sun, and he can roughly tell the direction after the sun. However, in the vast sea, the days of heavy winds and heavy rains are far more than the calm days. Most of the time, he floats along with the waves, has no direction, and does not know when he can reach the shore. Finally, on this day, he finally met a man who could talk, but not human. "Hey, boy, don't be dead, let me ask you something." Suddenly a husky voice sounded. Yekong opened his eyes sharply, only to find a mighty lobster standing in the sea water around him. "You talk to me? You speak humans?" Yekong hadn't spoken for a long time, and he was surprised when he saw a big lobster talking. In fact, Yekong still has a good opinion of this lobster. After all, no one has communicated for a long time, and it is worth celebrating to have someone speak. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 500. 500 Water Yunzang. But the lobster was not very friendly, and the big fork in the shaken hand said, "Your mother can't talk to anyone. This will be one of the 999 generals in the underwater world Shui Yunzang. You can honestly answer the general, Ben will let you go." Listening to it, Yekong only knew that he had encountered the demon repair, and the undersea demon repair. However, this way of demon cultivation is different from that of human monks. However, Yekong can still feel its spiritual power, and feel that this shrimp will not be cultivated at a high level, which is equivalent to the midterm level of human monk refining gas. "So General Lobster, you ask?" I listen. Yekong pretended to be timid. The shrimp will see Yekong afraid of it and be proud of him. "Take our lord, Penyaoang Lingyu, and look for his lost pet, a beast. Now ask, have you seen it? To be honest, humans are the most cunning." Bishao, Yekong listened to his eyes. Among the magic elements of the 5 elements sword formation, Shenfei, the golden beast, and Wujin are the main materials needed for the metallic flying sword Shenbiwujinjian. Yekong heard Lianrulan said that both Shenmu and Wujin had appeared, and the only thing that was hard to find was the inner beast of the beast. There is a unique feature of this thing, beast, which is immune to metallic spells, so by adding Beast Dan, Shenbiwu's golden sword can exert a powerful defense effect. But this beast is not easily met. Legend has it that this thing was born of bubbles in the tide, the so-called Tianyang Chaosheng, also known as the Bai Chaosheng. The vast sea is thousands of miles away, and the bubbles that rise every day do not know hundreds of millions. It can take hundreds of years to conceive a beast, so it is extremely difficult to find and requires great opportunities. Seeing Yekong snoring, Shrimp said angrily, "Hurry up to tell the truth. If you know to pretend you do anti-know, you do anti-know to pretend to know, or you know a little to say a little to know a little, not spare." Yekong collapsed, and the lobster said that the tongue twister was a bit talented, but his brain was a bit weak, and there was no way. The lobster was originally a small brain. This lobster general, in fact, neither knows nor does not know, nor does it know a little, not a little, but, doesn't know a thing. Yekong inhaled quickly after speaking. He first, people are stubborn, I'm going to knot my tongue. Shrimp will also be dizzy by what he said, it will take a while to understand, if you don't know, just say don't know. So much to say, do you want to tease Ben? No, no, Yekong Lian said not to dare. Seeing Yekong scared, Shrimp murmured in his heart. Rarely encountered a timid monk, it is better to blackmail. Sly humans. All right? Leave your storage bag and you can roll. Shrimp shook the steel fork. Want my storage bag? Okay, but see if you have this ability, Yekong sneered. Let's die, the shrimp roared, and the harpoon stabbed. Although Yekong's meridian is not completely good at this moment, he can only play half of his ability, and it is easy to deal with this lobster demon who practiced chi cultivation. Pop, the shrimp will be chopped in two by the golden shield broadsword. Well, I finally had a speaker, but I was killed, Yekong sighed, and wanted to find some useful materials from the lobster demon, but there was nothing. That broken harpoon was in the sublime weapon. The most inferior thing to give away, Yekong naturally despised it. I thought it was just killing a lobster, Yekong didn't care, and he was thinking of a beast. Who knows that after 2 hours, trouble has come. Dirty and sly human monk. You killed one of the 99 generals of Shui Yunzang. The suzerainer, King Pen Demon King, has issued a warrant, and I'll wait to arrest you. I saw a white tide floating on the surging sea. On the tide, there were countless crab monsters, monster fish monsters, water snake monsters, and many monsters who could not be named. At a glance, there were hundreds of thousands. It is spectacular. Yekong shook his head and said, no word of mouth, you don't want to spurt people, I didn't kill your general. The leading crab monster shouted with a pair of sledgehammers, I still want to quibble. It is a sly mean man, how dare you want to blind my wise and mighty crab general? Let me tell you, several black-eyed fish were watching, be clear, it is impossible to deny. Okay. Since you can't resist it, then please invite me to a seafood dinner. Yekong released the flying sword, floating on a level surface. The flying sword was like a surfboard, and Bibo rolled under his feet. Dream, where do we get the seafood dinner? The submarine family really did not have enough brains, and each one looked at each other. The seafood dinner, I said, is yours. Yekong laughed out loud and hit with a sword. Fijian stab, shield sword slap, sword light twist, magic power grab. Yekong used various methods to confront the enemy. Those low-level monsters died piece by piece, and the seawater was stained with a large piece. But how vast the sea was, a few waves passed, and the seawater returned to a clear blue. In the same way, the undersea demon repair is so vast that it can't be killed in any way, and these mindless guys are not afraid of death. Even without the concept of death, they know that they are rushing forward. Yekong killed 2 hours and did not know that he had killed thousands of low-level demon repairs. Finally, he lost some spiritual power. Looking at those demon repairs, it seems that they are as much as they started. Dirty and sly human. I am the chief of Shui Yunzang sturgeon. These 800 miles of water are all covered by this one. I just held a meeting in Shui Yunzang, so I was delayed. This is driving you crazy for a while. Now that the boss is back, you just wait to die. A catfish monster with 2 slender beards came out of the sea monsters. When Yekong looked at this guy, he was more powerful than the few generals he had killed before. He even had the strength at the beginning of the foundation. However, Yekong played 3 monks one by one during the construction period, let alone a brainless siren. The brain is so big, and the students are still in a meeting? I think you still have a family planning, eugenics, and so many mentally handicapped children. Yekong's spirit stones were thrown out in Wanjiachan. Only while talking, take a few sips of spirit wine to add spiritual power. The sturgeon hated others for calling him mentally retarded. The big fish mouth was so angry for a long time that he shouted, "How dare to fight me?" Yekong smiled. "I didn't want to play anymore. I never thought you had to die. Okay, I'll do it for you." After Yekong finished speaking, the flying sword under his feet accelerated in vain, holding the small sword weapon in his hand, and preparing to kill the enemy by using the sword repair method given by Jingquan to turn the gas into silk. To the reader. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 501. 501 Kill the fish and win the sword. After this practice, he has been able to release 3 sword silks. Although the sword silk is small, it is a condensed sword light. The power is not known how much greater than the previous swords. But who knows, just as Yekong rushed across from the catfish monster, Yekong suddenly saw that the catfish monster had the joy of treacherous tricks. No, there is fraud. Yekong somewhat underestimated the strength and intelligence quotient of these sea clan. This sturgeon can be trained to the foundation period. It must have lived for hundreds of years, and his brain is not enough. At this moment, the warning signs appeared, and the threat came from below. Yekong made an emergency maneuver, and his body was like a water dragon, rushing straight into the sky. At the same time, nearly 100 flying swords with peculiar shapes pierced the water surface and followed Yekong away. Dang dang dang, there was a dense sound of flying swords. Yekong resisted the first wave of attacks of the 100 flying swords, and then he looked at the water in amazement, trying to see who was attacking himself. These flying swords are all the best among the intermediate level flying swords. No Kraken's weapon can surpass these flying swords before, so Yekong thinks that he has encountered an immortal or an ultra-high level of demon repair. But found that it is not. Attacking him was a group of swordfish. These swordfish were also very peculiar in shape. Their bodies were covered with silvery white sharp armor, and their backs had a dorsal fin like a sword. But the most strange thing is that above the swordfish mouth, there is a hard bone like a flying sword. The skeleton is very sharp, the blade is long and sharp, and it can leave the body under the control of swordfish and fly out to attack the enemy. It can be described as a natural Chinese flying sword. If a monk can get it, simply refining it, a good Chinese flying sword weapon will be available. Good stuff. Yekong was overjoyed, and a fierce sun plunged into the sea and stood with the swordfish. The big head of the catfish was not to be outdone, and he took various other siren into the water. Another kill. Those monsters are more flexible in the water, especially swordfish, and they slide like a loach. Fighting in the water is also a test for Yekong. Fighting in the water consumes amazing spiritual power. More importantly, those spells, firebirds, 5 thunders, the power cannot be exerted. Yekong can only rely on the tacit understanding of the body and the flying sword, borrowing the power of the shadow martial arts and sword repair fighting. Oh, a fierce Jianguang split the sea, and another swordfish caught off guard and was split into 2 pieces. Giant vortices from both sides of Jianguang rolled several low-level sea monsters deep into the ocean floor. Yekong just took advantage of this moment of free time, rushed over, easily picked up the flying sword, and looked for the next target again. This kind of undersea battle is very beneficial to Yekong. Not only can he use the sea water to improve his physical strength, but he can also exercise the use of the sword. Finally, even Yingwu seems to have a new one. Promotion. The night sky was rocky, with cold stars. The tide was surging, but it was always very fierce. Under the water, there was constant sword air and vortex rising, and more flying swords penetrated the water surface, and then turned over and pierced the water surface, and inserted into the water. Yekong really admired the sea clan. I don't know how many people killed that day. He went on and on, endlessly. Life is worthless, and monster life is worthless. Wow, a blast of waves burst into the sky, and Yekong, wearing only a pair of trousers, flew out of the water, and he couldn't move. After this war, he drank all his spirits and he decided not to play. Seeing Yekonjiu go away, those sea monsters were so excited that they seemed to have fought a great victory. They didn't feel ashamed that they had killed them by themselves thousands of times. Dirty and cunning humans. If you dare to come again, you will never be spared. Yekong was so funny, I came a few times, afraid that there would be no seafood on the sea. He was still very happy. One day after the war, the harvest was very good. 73 flying fish swords were seized, each of which was a Chinese product, and several of them were mutated, with defense, acceleration and poison and other additional attributes. Ordinary Zongpan Fijian can sell 1,000 spirit stones, and those with additional attributes double the price. In this battle, at least 100,000 spirit stones were obtained. Well, Laozi is really an earning all. I just threw thousands of spirit stones in Wanjia city. Now I make so much money, haha, it's really cool. Yekong was taking inventory of the spoils, and suddenly he saw a flying boat crossing the sea cutting waves in the distance, flying towards his direction. The surface of the sea is too large and large. If you cross the sea with instruments, the spiritual power of ordinary monks can't keep up, so there is a traffic weapon like a flying boat. Many flying boats are faster than flying instruments, and they can take several people at a time without spending spiritual power, as long as they are equipped with spiritual stones. Most importantly, there is an astrolabe on the flying boat, which can locate the direction. No matter it is windy or rainy, you will not get lost. So this thing is necessary for crossing the sea. Looking at Fiazhu coming, Yekong's mind was condensed. After the war, he needs to take a break. If he encounters any unfriendly person, it will be a bit troublesome. But Fiazhu came over, Yekong didn't deliberately avoid. The flying boat rushed towards him, probably already found him. If he dodged at this moment, he would show cowardice and cause the other side to fight. The flying boat really came to Yekong. I saw the flying boat stop 3 meters in front of Yekong. On the Fiazhu stood a handsome young man in a silver-white shirt. This man was not only handsome, but also a heroic figure. It was not an ordinary monk at first glance. Let's look at his cultivation, which is a few floors higher than Yekong, and the 7-story building, which is the real person who has just entered the late stage of building. Dao invited. The next is the Acacia monk Yu Minghui. The young monk was also polite. Yekong heard of the Acacia sect, and his alertness did not relax, and he nodded and said, "Brother Yu, please, I'm Li Fuzi, a disciple of Yun Fuzong." The relations between the major schools in Kangnan are still alive, especially because everyone has to work together to deal with the dead Yin sect, so they are also regarded as brothers. Yekong said that the other brother is also good. Yu Minghui heard that it was Yun Fuzong's. He immediately got a little affection and invited Yekong to board the ship to speak. Yehalo Road, go up, you ancestors, I'm afraid you will not succeed. If you're worried, hey, I just grabbed your flying boat. Yekong walked into the flying boat and found that it was a golden wall with brilliant decorations and various rooms and supplies. The walls around it were painted with embroidered dragons and phoenixes, and the taste was extraordinary. Yekong laughed, "You Daiyu, you and I first took me into this high-end flying boat. Aren't you afraid that Li will get rich?" Yu Minghui said. Brother Li laughed and laughed. "I can see that you have just gone through the war. At this moment, you are exhausted." "Correct.